This product is gonna blow your balls off. We're gonna really attempt to do some funny stuff, and it's gonna crash and burn.
Yeah. Hi guys, thank you so much for coming to our YouTube channel. As you know, my name is Destiny, and I have two new people with me today. Justine is in Denver at Book Bonanza, so she is not here with us, but we have two very special guests. You want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, I'm a special guest. I own the Bookish box. Hi, I'm
not
Nathaniel.
in videos.
It's true. I am not normally in videos. I am normally screen printing shirts while you guys are doing cool videos.
Yeah.
So
I pulled them in.
I'm watching him do that.
Yeah, I'm usually covered in ink.
Yeah. You're a really good watcher. You're a professional watcher.
Mm-hmm.
I have
true.
skills. I have a certain set of skills.
Yeah.
And I Pete.
My name is David. I am a longtime friend of Justine and Nathaniel and have helped with a lot of the boxes in terms of putting them together and all sorts of stuff since it was a book blog and then to where it is today as a subscription service. So yeah. I'm Justine's muse.
Yeah, of the Bookish box.
Yep.
So
He is.
I'm inspiration for all that you see in your monthly box.
So today we are going to be doing our current favorites. Just some songs, movies, books, TV shows, podcasts that we've really been enjoying lately that we think that you guys would also enjoy. Okay, so the first category that we have is songs. And mine is a new song that just came out by 21 Pilots. I know there's like a big fandom around them, especially when they went on their hiatus for like a year and a half, something like that. Like they were off social media and everything, and then they came back with two new songs, and one of their songs, "Jumpsuit," it's just such a good song. I really love it. I've been listening to it pretty much nonstop since it came out. So that is my song that I'm recommending.
all right, cool. I'm gonna recommend not a song because I really don't. I've never been like a single guy. I just not like.
That's fair.
I've never been like a singles guy. I'm always like, what is this collectively as like a whole?
That's true.
So I'm gonna recommend something that I like to do specifically while reading. Like I love listening to music. I listen to music constantly in my headphones in the house. Like ask anyone, I'm always just like blaring music for no reason.
Yeah.
It's an artist called 1-2. Now it's not the number one. It's spelled weird, so I'm gonna preface that. It's W-U-N and then T-W-O. 2 words. 1-2. But he's a really lo-fi hip hop artist. He doesn't have any lyrics or anything. It's just mellow beats. It's really, really good to listen to, especially if you're trying to read or relax. So that's my recommendation.
Right now, I think that I would recommend. I've been listening to. So one of my favorite bands in high school it's Portugal the Man.
Oh my gosh, you
And
love Portugal
I
the
know.
Man.
So that would be that album Woodstock would be my first recommendation, and then I've also been listening to a lot of Perfume Genius. We have
we have a cat
cat's
behind
here.
us. Don't
There's
worry,
a
guys.
cat.
He's not just touching David's
yeah.
back.
Yeah, so I've been listening to a lot of Perfume Genius as well. He has an album that came out in 2017. So yeah, that's my recommendation.
Okay, so the next one is movies, and one of mine is an older movie, and one of mine is a more recent one. So the first one, if you need to know one thing about me, it's that I love Andy Samberg. I love him a lot. But for some reason, I had never even heard of Hot Rod before. Never heard of it, never seen it, never nothing. And then Nathaniel brought it to my attention, and so we watched it that day because I was like, well, it's happening, we're gonna watch it. And then my other one is A Quiet Place. You guys already know that we here love The Office, so obviously we love John Krasinski, and so obviously we're gonna love anything that he produces and directs and is in.
But it was really good.
It was amazing.
So I have a thing where, because of the fact that I screen print and I basically screen print all day long, I can't really focus on movies. Like I love foreign films, and I have such a rare occasion when I can watch them because I have to read, but I can't I have to read subtitles, which I'm fine with. I enjoy that, but it's hard because
doing something else.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, so
yeah, you're focusing.
Yeah, so I have a hard time with that. But I will say that because of that, the nature of how I watch movies now is just as basic as you can get it, funny, light, and mostly things I've seen. So I'm recommending to watch Bubble Boy.
Bubble
Boy.
It's
a hot classic. It's it's such a funny movie. If you guys have never heard of it, which I'm Shocked if
I
you
had
haven't.
never heard of it before.
She's younger, so yeah, just excuse her. But for anyone that's older than 12,
I'm not
just
12,
kidding.
guys.
I'm
I'm
kidding.
13.
It's really funny. I mean, it's just about it's literally a comedy about a kid who is like born without immunities, and so he lived in a bubble his whole life, and now he's like experiencing a whole new world. And it's just a silly movie, but I really get down with cheesy stuff.
So mine, we are breaking a lot of our own rules, so I don't have a single movie to recommend. But
sorry, what?
every year, there's a movie critic. He's the editor-in-chief and I think founder of IndieWire.
This is so good.
And every year he does a video montage and countdown of his top 25 favorite films. His name is David Ehrlich, and you have to look up, especially 2016 and 2017's countdowns, because they're incredible. They're set to music
2017 is
from the
oh my
films,
gosh, amazing.
and they're always a mixture of films that you've seen and that you loved and that you were really excited to see end up on the list, and then movies that you didn't ever hear about.
Yeah.
Because it's his job to just watch movies all year and you know, comment and write about them, and so he sees movies that most of us don't even hear about.
I mean, how many movies did we watch just based on like watching the list and then just finding movies and then we just watch the movies on the list because we're like,
Well,
these
we trust
look
him.
really good, and we do trust him, but
And
it's he hasn't let us down yet.
And so every year, my sisters and I will watch. He releases it in December. We watch it, and then we kind of like have this like competition between us to see who can like get to 25, watch all 25 first. And this past year, like we all have failed at that. So I'm like at like 19 or 20 of the films from that he from the list that he released 6 months ago, and I think I'm in the lead. But it's just like really incredible, and the music's good. The way he edits it all together is brilliant, and the movies are all always like fantastic. Like I've never watched one and been like disappointed that it was on there, even if I disagree with like the way he ranks them or something like that. It's really, really fun.
So the next category is books. I talked about this in a recent video that I started reading The Glitch. And I had just, I think I had gotten through, the first or second chapter when I filmed that video 2 weeks ago, I think, and I just finished the book, and it is fantastic. It's definitely more of a, I don't want to say satire, but, it's making fun of, all of these, business people in, Silicon Valley that, make their lives all about their business and stuff like that. It's really, really funny. It's really good. The characters really grow, and I don't want to spoil too much because it is a new release. It just released in, I believe, May or June, so I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't read the whole thing yet. But it really is fantastic. You should, if you like that type of books, I would check it out.
Awesome. I am going to recommend a comic book because he's going to recommend 1,000 books. She's going to recommend books. And I am a comic reader, so I'm going to recommend comic books. I'm going to recommend a Green Lantern series. Now, I know it's don't take the Ryan Reynolds situation movie into this. Green Lantern's actually, I think, one of the most well-written comics, for the most part, through and through. Because, different writers pick up the comics throughout the ages, but I think that Green Lantern consistently has always been very, very good. Just very, heartstring pulling and just really thought invoking. So I'm gonna recommend a series is called Brightest Day, Blackest Night. And so the whole series is really just about these overarching powers that were trying really to change the timeline of everything. So making everyone different. They're trying to basically get rid of Green Lantern, but they can't kill him or destroy him. They can't get rid of the lanterns. So they're trying to basically change the timeline to make it where it didn't exist. And then that invoked all these other forces and powers that were evil that ended up doing way more damage than these people could have ever done. So it's just really, really cool. I know it seems I don't want to give anything away, and I don't want to get too deep into it because that'll be a 7-hour video.
So I have 2 recommendations, not a million. My first is called Less, and I don't remember who it's by, but I'm currently reading it, And it came out in 2017, but it just won a Pulitzer Prize, and it's really funny. It's about a man who is trying to. He's an author, but kind of like a middle of the pack in terms of notoriety and fame. He is trying to avoid the attending the wedding of his ex-boyfriend, and so he accepts all of these invitations to go to these like speaking events and conduct these like interviews with authors like all around the world. And so it's just kind of this like very, very funny but kind of like slow and enjoyable book about him traveling around the world trying to like escape his past. It's really funny. It's really brilliant. I highly recommend it.
We've all been there.
And then there's a series that I used to read that I read when I was a teenager growing up. It's the Discworld series by Terry Pratchett, who passed away a couple years ago. And it is hysterical. It's a satire. It's a series of satires that make fun of the fantasy genre kind of in general, but then also lots of different books and movies more specifically. And there's like 20 or 25 books, I would say. And they're really hysterical.
The next one, TV shows.
Ooh,
so I'm gonna take from David, and I'm gonna recommend two because I can't help myself. So my first one is The Killing. I had never heard of it before. Justine and Nathaniel were like, "You have to watch it. You'd love it."
Pound through that.
Yeah, because I really love like true crime or like documentaries about crime, and so they're like, "This is right up your alley. You'd love it." And so I started it back in like April, and I loved it. But then I was just like going through like a weird like headspace, and I was like, I just can't, like, this is too much emotion for me because it's intense. It really is. It's a lot to like handle, and I just like wasn't ready for it. So I just restarted it a few days ago, and I'm completely obsessed again. New Girl. And Nathaniel's gonna be mad at me for it. I love it. I love that show.
No, I'm not. I don't think it's a bad show. Don't get me wrong. New Girl's actually funny. I love it. Schmitty is the greatest character on TV I think ever. I don't even understand how he's so funny.
That's true.
Honestly.
I love it. I think it's so funny.
Butt.
Yeah, I was waiting for a butt too.
But that darn Jessica Day. No, I'm kidding.
No, I really love. It's just like funny. It like it has a storyline, but like you could really kind of pick it up anywhere, and it would make sense if you watched like more than one episode. I don't know. It's a really just like uplifting show that I like. So
it's super light and fun.
Yeah,
honestly.
it is super light. Yeah, it's like it's if you're scared after watching The Killing, New Girls.
There it is.
Yeah.
You gotta chase the killing after every session with just an episode of New Girl.
Yeah, like two episodes of The Killing, 2 episodes of New Girl. Just go back and forth
literally,
like that.
Yeah. Okay, so I could recommend 10 million shows.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to. So the one show I'm going to recommend that I think everyone on Earth needs to watch, that's on right now, is Sharp Objects.
Oh,
Holy moly. I cannot express to you guys how insane the show is. I've only seen 2 episodes because I think it comes on Sundays, and it's been 2 episodes, I think. Or maybe I've seen 3, I don't know. But however many it is, I've seen those. And it comes on Sundays, and I'm really excited because Justine gets back from Book Bonanza on Sundays, so we actually can watch it and not have to wait. That's going to be key.
The author of the book that it's based on
Flynn
is the same author who wrote Gone Girl. So if you liked Gone Girl, it would be
It's like a thriller.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's a thriller. I feel like if you guys ever seen like Big Little Lies, it has that feel to it because it's the same director that directed Big Little Lies. Is directing Sharp Objects.
HBO?
Yes, HBO.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, we could go through and I could just say a blanket statement of if it's on HBO, you should probably watch it. You're really not going to be disappointed. HBO just doesn't do bad stuff. But in order to keep it like this is exactly what we're looking at Sharp Objects right now, and then I have another recommendation I have to share. It's on the tail of Sharp Objects. It's called True Detective. It's also on HBO.
Season 1 is so good.
Season 1. Matthew McConaughey, like you've never seen him before.
It's like
he's obsessed.
Oh my, Matthew McConaughey's the man.
It's like Southern Gothic and like cults are involved. Oh, it's incredible.
Exactly, it's crazy how good it is. It's Matthew McConaughey is like I think like 90 pounds. He's like super like small. I think he had just done Dallas Buyers Club.
Oh yeah.
And so it was on the heels of that. So he's still like that smaller frame from that, and so that's what he's that's what it's all about. But it's just such a good show. True Detective is literally like, it just deals with these two partners that are like, that like at the time were newer partners, and then there's like two timelines, and then later on they were like obviously much older partners together, and they're whole time like trying to figure out and solve this like crime, and it becomes like very much the one that got away kind of feel with like the crime that happened, and then also like them dealing with themselves and also them as like their relationship.
Well, I only have one recommendation right now, but I'm going to recommend it and then tell you why you should watch it. But I'm also going to tell you why. I'm also going to say why you shouldn't watch it. So my recommendation
He's always got a twist.
Oh yeah, twist ending. My recommendation is Carnival, and it's a show that was on HBO or Showtime.
I think it's
10, 12 years back. It was really incredible, really high production value. Really interesting story for any of you who like kind of like alternate histories or fantasy / sci-fi genre. It's set during the Dust Bowl Great Depression, and it follows this like traveling circus. But then there's kind of like layers of story, and really the characters are all involved. All of the characters who work for the circus and for like the freak show. They're involved in this like struggle for the soul of humanity kind of a thing, like this like epic battle of good versus evil, and the world building is really incredible, and the mythology surrounding the show is amazing. It's just I can't get enough of it. The problem is it was canceled early. It was canceled after season 2 on a massive cliffhanger, and so they never were really able to complete the story that they set up. But if you're okay with like that heartache and like the suffering that will come inevitably from watching this show, it's totally worth it. It blows my mind every time I watch it or really even like think about it. It's so incredible. But just know that it will cause you pain, because you will never. All of the questions you have will never really get answered.
It will haunt you.
It will
It'll
just
haunt you
forever. But in the best kind of way. So that's why I'm going to recommend Carnival.
The last one that we have is podcasts. Mine, I really love watching YouTube. That's something I do very often, and I follow this guy. His name is David Dobrik. I'm sure if you're around my age, you've heard about him. He's huge. Him and his ex-girlfriend are like,
yeah, not us.
Yeah, not them. Yeah, but they're big. They're really big. But he has a podcast called Views. He does that with Jason Nash, which is also one of his friends that's on his vlogs and stuff. But it's really funny. Views is really good. It's really funny, and they just kind of talk about what's been going on in their lives. And but they always have like they're really funny. They're both like comedians, so they joke around a lot.
Just a couple jokesters.
Yeah.
For podcasts, I am a pretty big podcast listener. I like, but I'm very specific. Like I don't like do like newsy podcasts or anything like that. But I do like this really story style podcast. So I'm gonna recommend Sword and Scale. I mean, I know that everyone's heard of it.
Yeah.
I know that it's probably out there. I mean, I think it's one of the biggest podcasts. But Sword and Scale, man. I mean, I've never been so informed on like the murders and crimes that happened that I never knew about, and I'm like, wow, this is like. I keep thinking, I feel like I'm still convinced that like sometimes he just makes them up because they're so wild.
Yeah, like how have I not heard about this before?
Yeah, but I mean, it really is. I mean, it's such a good podcast. It's literally a guy, I forget his name. I don't think he ever says his name. So we'll call him Mr. Sword and Scale.
Mr. Sword and Scale.
Yeah, Mr. SNS, sir. No, but he just literally goes through, and he is really, really good, and the podcast is really well done because it's not just like two people or one person just saying their opinion. He digs in and is like, I need to find like
police
tapes, police reports, like videos, like audio from the 911, anything that I can like grab. I mean, it's very like investigative reporter style. If you're like, especially if you're like doing like, for me and Justine, we don't listen to it all the time, but it's anytime it's like a road trip of driving. If it's like 10 hours, we're banking 10 hours for Sword and Scale.
Yeah.
Like,
well, sometimes we take a break because like sometimes it's like too much.
Yeah.
Like, Justine like she's like kind of overwhelmed after like 5 hours. She's like, okay, we gotta take a break.
Yeah. Because there's a lot to listen to, and especially if you're driving, especially if like the story involves a car or something like that. She's like, oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's like, nobody's going to the bathroom. We're cleaning water bottles until we get there.
Yeah, literally. But it's really good.
Yeah, it is really good.
Very good stuff.
Cool.
All right.
So I have 4 recommendations.
Oh,
no.
Here we go.
Actually, it's 3 recommendations and then 1 that I've like heard about, but I want to listen to it, and I want you guys to listen to it so we can kind of like talk about it. The first one is Hardcore History. So there's a really brilliant, he's an amateur historian, but he does these podcasts where he'll take very kind of like niche and very specific topics from different periods in history, and he'll just talk about it for like 5 hours. It's one like every episode is 5 hours long.
Oh my gosh.
And it's incredible.
Wait,
every
5
episode,
hours long?
Yeah. So every episode is 5 hours long, but every episode also covers the topic in its entirety. It really, really goes very in depth, and he covers it all in like 5 hours. And then the next episode is a completely different topic. That's usually
insane.
about 5 hours. Hardcore History. It's incredible.
It's in the name.
Really,
It's
really
hardcore.
good. Yeah,
It's
like
hard.
you have to love history. Like I'm a history major, and so it's like something that I can like definitely get down with. But you have to like have a deep love of history. But if you do, it's very rewarding. Another one is I Think You're Interesting. This is Todd Van Werf. He is a cultural critic who works for Vox Media. And he writes like movie review. He primarily writes movie reviews. He's a film critic, but he has a really interesting podcast called I Think You're Interesting, where he'll pick people who are involved in the productions of recent like movies or musicals or TV shows, but they're never kind of like the people who are at the front and center. He's never interviewing the director or like the main characters. He'll introduce like he'll interview like minor characters or the person who did like the sound mixing in a certain movie. Yeah, like he'll approach these things that we all love from interesting angles. So he'll talk to like the people who did the score, and every episode is he picks something that you're probably familiar with, and then he'll talk about it with people who you're not familiar with, who are really important and integral into it getting produced. Mm-hmm. My third one, just going quickly, is called Ear Hustle. It's a podcast that is produced by inmates in a correctional facility in California, I believe. It's incredible. It's really, really good. And the reason that they created the podcast is because they wanted to they talk about in the first episode, like there's all of these TV shows and movies that take place inside prison. Orange is the New Black, Oz, Prison Break, all these different things. And they kind of were talking about how like it doesn't actually accurately reflect their experiences in any way. Mm-hmm. And so they wanted to create this podcast, and every episode they talk about a different topic about their daily life in prison, and a lot of them are serving very long sentences, and so they've been in there for 20 years and they'll be in there for another 20 years. A lot of them are serving life sentences, but you get to know the individuals and their stories, as opposed to kind of having these stories given to you by people who do not share in that lived experience. Like mm-hmm. It's really incredible. And I highly recommend it. And then my last one, I haven't actually listened to it. I'm a little fuzzy on the details of what it is actually, but it's either a book that was turned into a series of books that was turned into a podcast where they're just reading it aloud like an audiobook, or it started as a podcast and then it got a book deal. I'm not 100% sure, but it's called The Witch That Came In From the Cold, and it's set in the Cold War. So again, history major, I do Russian and East European studies, so I'm like super jazzed about it. But it's an alternate history of the Cold. It's an alternate history of the Cold, like a story that takes place in an alternate timeline set during the Cold War, and it's like spies but magic. So it's like fantasy, Cold War, alternate history, drama.
All of your favorite things.
All of my favorite things in the world. And so I haven't actually dived into it yet, but I'm going to I just want to talk about it because I'm super excited about the prospect of listening to it. Uh-huh. So I'm going to listen to it. I want you guys to listen to it so that we can actually like chat about it in the comments or something.
Yeah.
I know I'm gonna devour it, and I'm gonna want people to talk about with it. Mm-hmm. So talk about it with.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So.
I disagree with.
So thank you guys so much for watching. Please make sure that you are subscribed already. If you have any current favorites of these that you want to share with us, you can leave them in the comments down below. Make sure you like this video and then you turn on our post notifications so that you can get notified when we post. Make sure that you're following us on all social medias. We have Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, everything.
MySpace.
Yeah, we don't have that.
Friendster.
But we could.
LiveJournal.
Live journal.
Yeah.
I think mine is still active in some way, and it's embarrassing.
I don't know what any of those are.
Oh, Zanga.
Oh, Zanga.
Cute.
Oh,
She's so young.
I don't know what that means either.
But then all of these recommendations we'll definitely put in show notes, so you'll see those.
Yes, well, I'll put all the links to everything that we said in the description bar, so if you want to check out any of the songs we said, movies, podcasts, everything like that, if I can find a link for it, it'll be in there. And make sure that you have a great day.
That's most important.
That's the most important.
Make sure that you have a great day.
Anything away from our
Subscribe, but if
recommendations.
you don't, make sure you have a good
Our
time.
number one recommendation is that you stay classy.
Stay classy.
And then
And
Minnie's here.
Minnie's here. Bye.
Yay! Another special guest. Bye, guys.
Bye.